Ladies and gentlemen, and children of all ages, what you are looking at here is a folded $1 bill. But more to the point, you know who I am, and now I'm going to describe to you what this is. This is a folded $1 bill, and upon the obverse and reverse of the $1 bill exist 3,500 easily discernible pictographs that can only be seen while utilizing something called Euclidean optics. Not only is that a complex system of mathematical engineering involving optics and the optic nerves, along with the synapses that move through your mind, but there are only a few people in the world that can comprehend the theory and utilize it to create things. Whoever created the $1 bill, however, had a complete understanding with an ability that goes far beyond any computers or personnel that we have on this planet in today's world. That includes everything that we know as far as knowledge could not possibly have created this $1 bill. Not in our lifetime, not in 1934, not in 1776, and certainly not any time in those areas. However, whatever created the front and back of the $1 bill did so before the building of the Great Pyramid, because there are things within the Bible that make it perfectly clear that the $1 bill, the Ark of the Covenant, and the Bible, along with the Great Pyramid, were all created on exactly the same time frame and utilized by this thing that we call the Lord God to prove its own existence by utilizing Euclidean optics. Now, how do I know this? This is a picture of a nautilus from the vertical view. Take my word for it. Go Google a nautilus, and that creature existed at the beginning of the Cambrian Age. Before the Cambrian Age, there were no species of creatures on Earth that were more than one-celled amoebas. Then at the explosion of the Cambrian Age, 300 million years after the world began, 33 creatures appeared on the Earth, including a nautilus with eyes that worked. After that, the chance of eyes working were slim to none. Therefore, the Lord God put this nautilus on there to represent that he was the beginning of the world. He also placed these two letters on top, aka E and U, as the European Union, to let you know when the world was going to end. Now, this picture of a man here that has rays coming out of his eyes, which are really the three wings of the cherubim, but we will get into that in a moment. And this man here, who has rays coming out of his eyes, headed towards the central theme, aka the one God of all the universe. This is how the Lord God has showed that Euclidean optics, aka the folding and bending of light around objects to make something appear differently than what it would look like in a flat, plain surface. This is the Lord God's way of showing you that he used Euclidean optics to prove its own existence. And from this point of view, you can see it's a man. However, when you fold the bill using certain methodologies, the picture of the man becomes much more clear. And we will get into that in a moment also. Now, I'm going to put this back down, and we're going to move on rather rapidly. This particular object on the $1 bill represents the first 17 verses of Genesis. It's in my book. The book is angelsontheark.com. I am not going to explain to you every aspect of this, but this pictograph that you see here describes the first 17 verses of Genesis perfectly. In my book, I go through each verse line by line, word by word, and this is a depiction of the book of Genesis, aka in the beginning there was a void. This is the void. aka the Lord said, let there be light. This is the glory of the Lord. The Lord said, let there be a firmament in the midst of the light. This is the firmament in the midst of the light. The Lord said, let the earth appear. This is the earth that appeared. The Lord said, let the oceans appear. These 4 dots represent the 4 bodies of the water. Let there be herb. This is the herb. Let there be grass. This is the grass. Let there be trees with seeds within themselves. This is the trees with seed within themselves. This is the promised land, aka the United States of America, represented in numbers. And it goes on and on and on. And that's my interpretation of the book of Revelation. And this is the Lord God speaking to this world. Whether you choose to believe it or not, you'll have to read the book to find out how it ends. This is the Lord's God proof that He exists. He actually gave the man who was in charge of the promised land, aka the first president to appear on the $1 bill, aka the last president to be taken off this world as far as United States currency. So George Washington was the first, and he will be the last to be removed from this world president within the Omega symbol. And he is the only president placed inside an Omega symbol. So here we go. The Omega symbol represents the Lord God, who is the first and the last. George Washington, first president to be placed into the Omega symbol, the last. George Washington is the kind of caretaker of the Ark of the Covenant. And we will move into that shortly as well. This is the Lord God's first commandment, where the Lord God says, thou shalt have no other gods before me. In other words, in God we trust one. Thou shalt have no other gods before me. And a little bit of information before we move on. If you notice, this design inside this trumpet, and this is in fact a trumpet, this design in the head of the trumpet right here looks like a crystal. That is what is described in the Bible as the sea of glass, because this is of a crystalline nature, glass is of a crystalline nature, and glass of a crystalline nature cut in a crystalline form, and it displaces light, aka Euclidean optics. The entire $1 bill is a pictograph consisting of 3,500 pictographs that associate itself with the Bible, utilizing Euclidean optics. Now here is a perfect example of Euclidean optics. You can see that this green seal, which is the seal that represents the 7 seals in the book of Revelation, this is a picture of the cherubim, one of the cherubim with 6 wings. This is the face of the cherubim. This whole segment is the face of the cherubim. If you notice, it looks like it's going this way. On the other end of the bill is another cherubim that's pulling it in the opposite direction. That cherubim and this cherubim are literally pulling the Lord God's chariot through the heavens. Believe it or not. This is a picture of a bullock or a ram or a calf with horns. That's described in Revelation chapter 5, verse 6. This is a better picture of the European Union, the Nautilus, and the men whose faces, whose face looks like a beast, that look like men that are not men, in Revelations 4, verse 6. This is the sword of Jesus, supposedly. And in my book, I describe this in great detail. Now this is the Ark of the Covenant being towed in 2 different directions by the cherubim. Mark my words, if you were to read the portion of the book that showed you what this was, you would understand that in fact, as crazy as that idea sounds, it would be the truth. Ladies and gentlemen, I need to get a bigger camera because I have once again run out of time.